look out for, okay? Because how many of us are realtors here in the room? Well, great. Glad to see you. Good, good. Because when we first started, we had to figure out how these real estate transactions with HUD worked. Okay? Because there are small idiosyncrasies and little demands that HUD makes that just don't feel common. They're not normal like the regular transactions that we have. Everything with HUD is cut and dried. Okay? Now, I'm going to start off with the real basics. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, turn this way. All right. What makes a HUD home a HUD home? Okay? If you've never been around this type of thing, it's kind of daunting. You wonder what gives it this label. Well, all a HUD home is basically an FHA loan. You're all familiar with the types of loans out that people purchase properties to live in. An FHA loan is a loan backed by the Federal Housing Administration. Okay? That's where the FHA comes in. They back that loan. Now, when that loan goes bad, the lender, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whoever it is, has to foreclose on that property. And unfortunately, they go through the process. They take the property back via foreclosure. Now they've got a property, and they also had a little insurance policy from FHA. Okay? They file the claim with FHA, the bank does, and says, hey, I had to take this loan back. We've got an insurance policy against this. Please pay us. FHA pays that lender and takes the property. Okay? Since the Federal Housing Administration is part of our wonderful government, they hand it off to their sister department, I suppose, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD. So in a nutshell, all we're looking at is an FHA foreclosure. Okay? It was backed by an FHA loan, the bank filed the claim, and FHA took the property. All right? A lot of times people will look at these properties and say, well, HUD properties are usually really dingy and dirty. Has anybody gone through and looked at HUD properties? Walked through them and gone, oh my goodness, yeah, okay. Well, you know what? Many of them don't get cleaned up as much as they should have, when the people moved out. However, more and more we're seeing people move out with dignity and leave the place nice and clean. We just received one in Ladson. Not, a week ago? About a week ago. It was completely rehabbed in 2017. The people who lived in it and bought it used an FHA loan. For one reason or another, they couldn't make the payments. So they lost the property for foreclosure, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate part of life. But we walked in there, and it looks as though somebody just rehabbed it, and it just needs just a little bit of cleanup. This is over in Ladson, okay? It looks fantastic. It's got a beautiful new roof. You would swear that the paint was still fresh, okay? The carpet's not stained. There are nice HUD properties out there. So don't get the misconception that they're going to be junkers or something that you're going to have to put a lot of repairs into, okay? So HUD properties can be a really good deal for you. Okay, so don't get the misconception that they're going to be junk. Okay, so this was just a basic rundown of how the process worked. Okay, FHA, after they take the property back, they send it to HUD. Okay, now the asset management company, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, doesn't handle these properties. They're part of our government. They don't do this kind of thing. So what they do is they hire outside sources, outside property management companies to handle certain regions, okay? In our area, KM Minnemeyer and Associates is Janet's and my client. They have the properties that are sent to them by HUD, and they in turn contact the listing agent in the area and say, here, we're going to assign you this property. Okay? It's really almost as simple as that. And they're right here in North Charleston, thank goodness. Okay? So they're really fond of their acronyms. NLB, and I'm showing you this because there's a reason, okay? We're known as neighborhood listing brokers. Janet is the broker in charge, okay? She's the neighborhood listing broker, or NLB. So if you ever see that in a HUD transaction or anything like that, or they're asking you, for the NLB's contact information, you'll know what you're looking for, okay? And that's just simply the listing broker's information, okay? And that's us. We are located up off of Ashley Phosphate Road. Does everybody know where the bowling alley is across County Road? All right, well, we're 2 buildings up, going back toward the highway, same side. We're in a little office in the back of the building, okay? So, this is the greatest part, all right? In order to find HUD properties, you don't need to have access to MLS. You don't have to have somebody looking for you. And as a realtor, you don't have to actually go ahead and look for these properties and send them to your prospects or your clients. They can go on HUDhomestore.com and look for themselves. It's free, so you never have to pay. Has anybody heard of HUDforeclosures.com or HUDhomes.com? Okay? What did they wanted you to do? Give them $1?
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah, okay. Never, and you can tell your clients this, okay? Never pay for a HUD list. A, they're bogus. We have calls come in all the time from people who say, hey, I just bought a HUD list and I'd like to look at this property. We sold it a year ago. It happens all the time. Even if it's $1. That's what it is, okay? So never pay for a list. You can go on to HUDhomestore.com, and if I can tell you to do anything tonight, it's write that address down. HUDhomestore.com is easy, it's user-friendly, and it's free. All you do is click on the state, and you can search for any parameter you want. You don't have to fill it all in. If you want to search by county, you can do that. If you want to search by city, you can do that. If you want to search by price range, you can do that. It tells you everything that's available. And the great thing is if it's on this website, it's available.
The prices, are they pretty firm with the prices that they have on there?
You know, that's a great question. That's a very good question. I'll tell you that yes, when they initially start off with their listing period, at the very beginning of the listing, yes, they're probably going to keep it fairly close, okay? Edit this out. Is anybody an attorney? No? Okay. So what you do is that you should understand that the longer it goes and stays on the market, the more flexible HUD may be. I didn't tell you that, okay? But that's what we've seen in our experience, okay? But that's how it works a lot of times, okay? Second of all, there are owner-occupant periods versus investor periods, okay? And I'll cover that in just a moment. But part of HUD's philosophy, their whole goal, is to get in to the neighborhoods. If they have to take the properties back, they prefer to sell the properties to owner-occupants. They prefer it, okay? Their goal and their whole drive is to stabilize neighborhoods, stabilize values, okay? Bring back neighborhoods. They don't want the values to go down. They want to keep the values up, okay? So what they do is when they have an initial listing period, the very first part of that listing is going to exclude non-owner occupants most of the time. Okay? So that was another slide I was supposed to use. Okay? That's the HUD Home Store main page. Very simple, very easy. All you do really is click on the state and you can fill in any one of those that you're looking at. User-friendly, very easy. Hit it, and it'll bring up everything. If you want to just do the state, just because you're interested in maybe seeing if something's in Darlington, bring it up. You see anything within the United States. So if you have family members in Oklahoma, you can find those properties for them too. Okay? HUD tries to be very transparent. And I'm going to cover this part right here because this actually falls into line of you as an investor. This is one of the tools that you can use to save yourself some time and look at the property and give it a very basic evaluation for yourself. All right? When you bring up a property, when you see a property on there, you're going to click on a little blue number on the left-hand side. This is what's going to come up. This is the property page. All right? This little tab right here is this. This will give you the basic information. It gives you 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, what year it was built, okay, what the acreage is. Very super basic, okay? But if you want to go over to this next tab, it says addendums. Okay? An addendum tab. They're going to have what they call a HIPR, a property inspection report. Okay? That's going to probably give you the most bang. You bring that up, it's going to be a basic property inspection report. Now when HUD takes a property over, they send out a property manager, a property preservation company. And these guys all have, just like any other government program, they have a checklist that they have to go through. They make sure that the roof is secure, that it's not leaking. They look at it, see if the plumbing has water in it, and if it does, they'll blow it out with water. Especially during coming up toward the winter hours. It's called winterization. And what they'll do is they'll put air behind it and they'll blow all the water out of the lines. Make sure they don't freeze and break. Okay? In the meantime, they'll also pour antifreeze in the traps of the sinks to make sure that that doesn't freeze. Okay? So that is known as winterization. They go out there, they will do an evaluation, and they'll put air to the system. And if it maintains the air pressure, they know the system's good. It doesn't have any leaks. But it will also spell out if it didn't hold pressure. That's important to you because now that you know that it doesn't hold air pressure, it might have a leak somewhere. Okay? There's so many different things you can look at. It'll tell you whether there's flooring that's been removed, carpeting that's been removed. Are the appliances there? There's a tremendous amount of information if you stop and look at it. Okay? There's health and safety, things like that. Now if they go through and they find out that there's a banister missing off the front steps or something like that, they'll put one on. It may be pretty crude, but it'll be on there. Okay? So you can go ahead and look at that condition report and get a real good idea of what the condition of the property is. Now it does not take the place of a full home inspection. Okay? Full home inspection, termite letters, things like that, those should be up to the buyer to do at their own discretion. As realtors, we highly, highly suggest that you have home inspections and at least termite letters to make darn sure the property's in the condition that you want it in. Okay? The other thing to remember is when you go out to look at this, okay, you need to have a HUD qualified realtor with you. It doesn't have to be a realtor, it has to be a real estate agent who is HUD qualified. And that's really not that tough because all a real estate agent has to do is go on HUD Home Store and register. As long as their brokerage has the NAID number, which is a name and address identification number that's been assigned to that brokerage, your agent only has to go out and sign up on the HUD Home Store. So if they don't know, if you're working with a real estate agent who doesn't know whether they're qualified or not, have them get a hold of their broker in charge and say, hey, do we have an NAID number? If they say yes, then all you got to do is encourage your agent to go on there, sign up, register with HUD, and they're good to go to show properties and handle transactions for HUD. Okay? So this was the addendums tab. There's all kinds of different things that are available. PCR, which is property condition report. Okay? There are LBP, lead-based paint, reports, if they're necessary. Okay? There's ECRs, which is an environmental concern report. That'll tell you if it's anywhere near an airport. Okay? Things like that. So use the addendums tab, go in there, poke around, find all the reports that you possibly can, and do as much preliminary looking as you can. Because the more you do there, the less you have to do while you're on the property. Okay? Or you could even just say, well, no, this thing's obviously got too many problems for me. I'll pass on this one. Let's move on to something else. Okay? So it can save you time, effort, and money. So again, offers. How do we place offers? Well, you want to, again, have a HUD registered agent. Their office has to have an NEID number. And the great thing about a HUD property, okay, is when you place an offer through your agent, it's not a long drawn-out process. You hear back within 24 hours, 24 business hours, okay? Because if you put in one on Sunday or Saturday or Friday, you got to wait till Monday, unless it's a holiday, okay? So it's very time easy. You're not waiting for a week. You're not putting in an offer on a HUD property, seeing another one and saying, well, if they accept this one, should I go with this one? No, it's very simple, very easy. Okay? HUD, your realtor puts in an offer, 24 business hours, you'll hear back, yes or no. They don't counter offer. How many of you have put in offers on bank-owned properties to have them come back and say, hey, we got multiple offers, we want your highest and best? Yep, a lot of people have experienced that. HUD doesn't do that. Okay? What we suggest is that your buyer come in at a price that they want to get the property at, but come in at their best, because there's not going to be any counter offers and no going back and forth. There's not going to be highest and best, none of that. HUD simply says yes or no. And it's very easy for your agent to find out. Middle of the next day, just go on HUD Home Store, log in, and there's a little thing called bidder functions up there. Your agent can click on that, look up your last name, and you can get the status of your bid right then and there. Very easy, very fast, very simple. Okay? We can place offers as agents. We can place offers in 10 minutes. Very simple, very easy. It's a one-page form. Okay? So those are some of the basics, okay? Some of the terminology that you're going to see is asset management company. And we talked about that just a moment ago. That's KM Minimeyer's office. They're the asset management company who handles the assignments from HUD and sends them off to agents like us. Field Service Manager, or the FSM. That Field Service Manager is the company who handles the day-to-day operations of that property. They maintain the property. They make sure the grass is cut at least once a month. Unfortunately, I mean, the grass gets up this tall in a month sometimes in what, July or August? You know, I wish they'd cut it more, but, you know, sometimes it's only once a month. They make sure that the property is clean. They go in there, when they go in and cut the grass, they also go in there and deal dust. They make sure it's nice and clean. They try to present the property in its best light. Okay? BSCA. Okay? Buyer Select Closing Agent. That's a simple, that's a real big term for your attorney. That's the lawyer who's going to close it. Here in the state of South Carolina, we use attorneys to close transactions. Okay? BSCA just simply means the Buyer Select Closing Attorney or Closing Agent. Alright? That is your choice as the buyer. You choose which attorney you want. You don't have to worry about HUD, because HUD uses attorneys here in the area, and they will pay their side of the fees to these attorneys. You get to take your choice. Okay? A lot of attorneys in this area are already qualified. They've already put their documents into the system. They know what they're doing. But if you run across an attorney who says, I'm not registered with HUD, maybe he's your brother-in-law, maybe you say, I'm not going to do this transaction without my brother-in-law. Well, all they have to do is submit their documentation to HUD. They will assign them the number within a week, and you can move forward with that transaction. Okay? So it's really not a daunting task to get an attorney put onto that system. Okay? And HOC, which is a home ownership center, that's probably not anything you're really going to have to worry about. But when they say a HOC, that's just a generalized term for the region's central HUD office. They used to be in Atlanta. Jim, do you know where they are right now? They're still in Atlanta? Okay. Yeah. So the HOC, the Home Ownership Center in the southeast, is in Atlanta. Okay. We used to have to ship documents off to them almost every day. But now that we've got a company in Charleston, we're blessed, actually. Okay. All right. This is going to get down to the meat and potatoes. This is what some people really, really need to know. This is the important part about looking at properties. When you go on HUDHomestore.com, you need to know what you're looking at. Okay? A property is going to come up, and it's going to have a qualification on it, a classification. Okay? It's going to say either insurable, insurable with escrow, or uninsurable. This has nothing to do with homeowner insurance. Nothing. It has all to do with FHA insurable. Okay? What does that mean to us as investors? It means, if anybody's familiar with FHA and properties, they have to be safe, sound, sanitary, and secure. Okay? So for something to be insurable, it has to be in fairly decent condition. So if you see a HUD property that is classified as insurable, you know it's in fairly good condition. Insurable with escrow. Those are kind of the properties that almost make it to insurable, but they need some repairs. Up to $10,000 worth. Okay? And what they do is they will allow a buyer, a homeowner buyer, to come in and put an escrow in place to guarantee that the repairs get done after closing. Something very, very important. HUD does not allow repairs or occupancy or anything prior to close. So if you've got a buyer who says, I got to get my stuff out of my apartment, I got to move in, I'm just going to put this stuff in the garage. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? HUD will not allow that. So insurable with escrow means that there's up to $10,000 worth of repairs that can be financed in. But the buyer has to provide that escrow. Okay? Again, as investors, it doesn't mean diddly for our financing. But what it does tell you is there's some repairs that need to be done. Yes,
So
ma'am.
you're saying when you say that the buyer has to put it in escrow, they're going to have to pay the $10,000?
Up to, right. If, say there's $7,500 worth of repairs to bring it to FHA standards, the buyer can either take it out of his pocket, or if he's negotiated a low enough price, he can finance that escrow into his loan. Okay? As long as it doesn't exceed appraised of after repaired value. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So you're
Yes, sir.
saying 10,000, but up there it says 5K?
Yep, they changed it.
Okay.
Yep, I'm a little slack on changing my slides.
So it's actually 10?
It's actually 10, yep. It used to be 5. Okay, but they found that repairs were coming in a lot higher, and it was bumping into FHA 203K loans, which are rehab loans. So they figured, well, we'll just bump it up to 10 and include more properties in this insurable with escrow. Good point. I'll do my best to change that. Thanks, Forrest. Okay, now this one right here is the one that you're going to need to pay attention to. Uninsurable. Uninsurable means there's more than $10,000 worth of repairs to bring it to FHA standards, and it will not qualify for FHA without it. Many times you'll see on the listing where it says FHA uninsurable, not 203K eligible. Does everybody know what an FHA 203K loan is? Okay, for those of you who don't, to break it down real easy, you can take a buyer, okay, with an FHA loan. They can walk into that property, finance in repairs and the purchase price. Okay? They'll close on the property, the escrow is on the side, they'll get the repairs done, the bank will issue the check, and when everything's all said and done, the purchase is done, all the repairs are done, you have one loan, and it's an FHA loan. That's for owner occupants only. Okay? But what it tells me, when it's FHA uninsurable, not FHA 203K eligible, that means there's a problem somewhere. Many times what the problem can be is maybe it's a double wide home on a beautiful foundation, but they can't find the HUD plates. Or they can't find the data plate to verify the information of when it was built and all that. Okay? There are times we've seen beautiful properties that uninsurable, not FHA 203K eligible. And we scratch our head and say, how can this be? But that's how it works. They've got certain things that they have to meet to be able to make it 203 eligible. Okay? But uninsurable, now I've chased that rabbit long enough. Okay? So uninsurable basically means that this thing's got more than $10,000 worth of repairs. Be ready for it. This is when you look at it and say, oh, okay, let's look at that property condition report in the addendums tab. Let's open that up, see what the might be up. Yeah? Maybe they've got massive repairs in the water lines. You know, maybe many different things. Maybe it's an unsafe floor. Who knows? But it's an uninsurable property. If you place an offer on that as an investor, I am going to urge you, whoever the real estate agent is that you're sitting with, go through the contract and paperwork before you sign it. Because there are times when an investor will put up their earnest money, and it is non-refundable if you don't close for any reason whatsoever. As an investor. Okay? So when you see uninsurable, a little flag should go off in your head and say, whoops, let's drop this down a gear and slow down a little bit, and let's look at what we're dealing with. Because there's a potential for you to lose an earnest money deposit because you don't close. Yes, you have an inspection period, but it's for informational purposes only. Okay? So, as I was saying, the owner-occupant period at the very beginning of the listing is the first 15 days of the listing. They'll exclude anybody who's not an owner-occupant. Okay? So, if you see a brand new listing come up and it's insurable or insurable with escrow, you know darn well that you're going to have to wait at least 15 days before you can put an offer in. I'm not going to go through a whole lot of what's going on with this, but the uninsurable period is a 5-day period. Yes?
Is that the same as home path?
Yes and no. Not so drastic as home path. Okay?
Is home path HUD home?
No, ma'am. No, home path is Fannie Mae. Yeah. Home steps is Freddie Mac. HUD is its own complete little animal. It's like direct government. Okay? So insurable and insurable escrow, there's a 15-day period in there. So day 16, if they don't have any offers that they can accept, you're open to place a bid on it on day 16. And the cool part about it is, again, this is HUD. This is the government. They don't have a vested interest. They're not the ones who painted the walls. They're not the ones who saved up for 6 months to be able to put a new stove in. They have no emotional tie to these properties. So if you as an investor come in and look at a $135,000 property and want to put in an offer at $99,000, but you're afraid to offend them, you don't have to worry about that. Okay? All they do is say no. They have no emotion about it whatsoever. Okay? And, you know, I mean, I kind of chuckle about that, but I've seen it. I've had people ask me a million times, do you think they'll get mad at me if I put in a $99,000? No. They'll love to see the offer. It gives them an indication of value. Okay? They'll probably say no, but hey, you know what? What happens if they say yes? Terrific. Okay? So we encourage everybody, if you have any interest in the property and it works for you, place an offer if you can. Okay? Place it where you'd like to get it first. Okay? You can always start low and come up. It's not a problem. Okay? So we encourage offers to come in on properties. So if you're looking at it and it's been on the market 25, 30 days, okay, and it makes sense to you, go ahead and place the offer. Okay? Just pay attention to whether it's insurable with escrow, or uninsurable, because it's going to make a huge difference to you. Okay? Oh, thank you. Uh-oh. I didn't do that. Okay. I don't know how this got started. There, I'm trying. This thing, I think I hit the play button, unfortunately. Anyways, I can't be trusted with these things. All right, so we're going to get back to the, there we go. Earnest money. Very easy. I've got to figure this thing out. Goodness gracious. It's going to drive me crazy. But anyways, earnest money. All right? It's not a lot of money. All it is a simple formula. If the property is $50,000 and below, it's $500. If it's 50,001 and above, it's 1,000. And they just put a new one in. I think it's if it's 250 or above, or yeah, I think it's 250 or above. It's 2,000. Okay. And if you're buying vacant land, it's half the purchase price. So, okay, let's see if we can get this thing started again. Come on. I apologize, folks. Okay. So, yeah, vacant land is half of the purchase price. Please don't tell your agent, I want to increase the amount of earnest money to make it look better, because it doesn't work that way. Again, HUD is cut and dried. If it's $49,000, it's $500. Everybody's even. Okay? If you try to put in 1,000 on a low price property like that, they will reject the offer because it doesn't fall within their guidelines. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether 10 people are bidding or not. Everybody's going to have the same amount of earnest money. So it's not an issue. So you don't need to worry about somebody even beating you out of a bid because of earnest money.
Now, when you talk about half of purchase price, is that the half of what you're putting in, or half of what they've got it listed for?
Half of the purchase price agreed to. Yep. Okay? Now the earnest money needs to be made out to the listing broker. All right? And it needs to be certified funds, which means either a cashier's check from the bank, it can be a money order, but as long as it's certified funds, it could be a bank money order, or even a money order from a gas station. I've seen those come in all the time. But as long as it's certified funds, made out to the listing broker, that's who it needs to go to. And it needs to be there within 2 days of acceptance. Okay? Once your buyer or you have an accepted offer, that earnest money is due within 2 days to either ourselves, which is Southern Breezes Real Estate, or there's another HUD listing broker over in Mount Pleasant. His name is Bill Trull. He works for Carolina One. So that's another thing you want to pay attention to, is who is the listing broker? Where are they? You want to have the contact information for the NLB, Neighborhood Listing Broker. Okay? When you have that, that's who you either want to deliver it to by hand and get a receipt, or you can overnight it. Whichever one makes sense to you. Okay? Again, it has to be a certified funds made out to the Neighborhood Listing Broker. Okay? Now, as an investor, you may want to finance the deal or pay cash, whichever one floats your boat. Okay? If you're going to pay cash, you need to provide proof of funds. And they're pretty liberal about this. Okay? It can be a letter from your bank, on bank letterhead, signed by your banker, stating that you have, and it has to have your name or your company, whoever it is that the buying entity is, has to have that on the top, stating, yes, there is this much funds in to cover this transaction. You don't have to tell them if you've got $100,000 and you're offering 60. The bank just needs to say, yes, we have 60,000 or 65,000 to close this transaction. Okay? So you don't have to bare your soul to HUD. Okay? If you're offering 65,000, have a proof of funds letter at 65,000 or even 70, because you might have some closing costs. Okay? So proof of funds can be either a letter. Yes, sir.
How long does it take, or how long do you have that in?
That needs to go in within 2 days of acceptance. So when you're making this offer through your agent, please provide proof of funds or a pre-approval letter to your agent when they're placing the offer. This is the only thing with HUD. You need to have your ducks in a row before you place the offer. Okay? So if you're going to have proof of funds, have the proof of funds available. You can have it as a screenshot of your bank statement, or you can get a screenshot off your computer, as long as it shows the entity who is buying it. Like if you're in an LLC, if you're buying with an LLC, the bank account needs to have the LLC's name on it. Many, many times we've had people send stuff in, they say, oh yeah, I'm buying this in XYZ LLC, but they send the proof of funds in because they've got a savings account in their personal name. We can't tie those two together. Okay? They can't, HUD says you're not responsible to pay for your LLC. Okay? LLC's making the agreement, the LLC needs to have the funds behind it. Again, that's the same with a pre-approval letter. If you're using hard money, okay, get a letter from your hard money lender spelling out who your name is and that they're pre-approved or approved, fully approved, for funds up to a certain amount for the purchase of whatever property. Okay? It needs to be very specific and it needs to be signed and dated on the letterhead. Excuse me. So it needs to be extremely specific. Okay? It needs to have the loan information that's on there. Yes?
So you don't have a period, a grace period to do due diligence before you actually pay the full amount?
Actually, you do. You do have a due diligence period. Absolutely. Again, this is where coming into the uninsurable, insurable, and insurable with escrow is really going to be important. Because if you're buying as an investor with an uninsurable, yes, you have a due diligence period, and you can back out if you wish. But if it's an uninsurable property, the agreement states that if you don't close for any reason whatsoever, you forfeit the earnest money.
Only
Okay.
if it's uninsured.
Correct. Okay? If it's insurable or insurable with escrow, read the contract with your agent, okay? It will spell out your conditions of your due diligence period, and if by some chance you find something that is not on that report, remember the property condition report I was talking about? Okay? They expect that an investor will read that document and be fully aware of what's going on. Now this is with the uninsurable properties, okay? And the example that we talk about most of the time is a property over in, say you've got one over in Goose Creek. The property condition report states, hey, there's a crack in the foundation of the floor. You know, it's a slab floor. There's a crack in it. Doesn't seem like a big deal to you and me, does it? Not really, okay? How severe is it? So you go through the uninsurable offer, get it accepted, you pay your earnest money, you go over there and you look back at this, and all of a sudden this crack in the foundation goes the whole length of the house. The right side is up 4 inches from the left side, and it's going to take a severe amount of repair to get that flooring back to level. You try to talk to HUD about that and say, hey, the floors are uneven. They're going to say, we told you that. There was a crack in the floor. I'm sorry, but we disclosed that to you. They're not being mean, they're not being nasty, and they're not being greedy. They're just trying to streamline everything. They're trying to give you as much information as possible and say, you move forward on this, okay? You really need to know. But if you go in there and you find something that's not on that report, and you say, I'm backing out because of this, it's entirely possible that they will return your earnest money. Am I guaranteeing that it will? No, because I can't speak for HUD, okay? But there have been times when an investor will go in there and say, I'm sorry, it's, you know, there's a massive problem with this foundation or something to that effect, and they say, okay, it wasn't disclosed, yeah, we'll give you your earnest money back. To cancel the deal, okay? So as an investor, if you're representing an investor, or you are one, please, please pay attention to the classification of the property because it's going to mean a lot to you, okay? Inspections. They're going to be for your, again, for your informational purposes only. To let you know and make sure that you're happy with it. Sometimes there might be a situation, and I'm not suggesting that you do this, but there's going to be times when you may look at this and say, I think I'd rather lose my $500 than go in and really fall on my face on this one, unfortunately, okay? The whole idea is not to do that, okay? Make sure that you don't do that. But it might be your only option out if you run into a property like that. So make sure that you do a really good, thorough look at the property while you're looking at it. If you want to bring a contractor, by all means do so. But A, make sure that you have a HUD registered agent with you at all times whenever you're on that property. Okay? Many times I've had people call me and say, hey, I'm out here in Cottageville. All right? I'm out here in Cottageville. I want to look at this property. Can you just give me the lockbox code? You know what? Nothing would make me happier. I can stay at my office and complete the reports that I have to do and give it to you, but I can't do that. And no other agent should be doing it either. Because if we find somebody on the property without a real estate agent, we'll ask them to leave. Okay? It's in our HUD directive that we are to make sure that somebody who's HUD qualified is at that property every time somebody's there. That includes contractors. That includes inspectors. That includes termite letters, appraisers, everybody. Okay? They don't want anybody out there by themselves. And they make darn sure that no repairs are done prior to closing. I know I've said this once or twice, but so utilities are one issue that we're going to bump up against. All right? And we see this happen pretty significantly, okay? You have an uninsurable property where remember I was talking about blowing the airlines out? Where it won't hold air? Well, according to HUD, that property does not have a secure plumbing system. They won't allow you to turn on the water. In order to turn on utilities, you have to contact the FSM, or what, the field service manager? Yeah. And they will give you authorization to turn on the utilities at the buyer's expense for 3 days, and 3 days only. Okay? So once you turn on the utilities, try to get your inspections done, and I would suggest your appraisal as well, if you're going to have an appraisal done. Because after 3 days, they're going to make you turn the water and the electricity back off. Or gas, if there's gas there. Okay? So try to keep in mind that these things need to be coordinated, and your real estate agent needs to be coordinating these things with you. Okay? We try to coordinate and make darn sure that everything gets done within the inspection period. It's very brief. Okay? It's a very brief period. All the work on a HUD property is done up front, at the very beginning. After 15 days of being under contract, you should have everything done. With the exception of your final loan approval, of course, if that's what you're going after. Okay? But if it's a cash deal, you should have everything done, including your termite letters, everything done within the first 10 to 15 days. Fast. Okay? Because if they want to put it, if they have to put it back on the market, they want to know sooner rather than later. They're not unreasonable. HUD is not unreasonable to get along with. They really aren't. They're great human beings. They're great people up there. You know, I've had conversations with several. They're just really nice people. They're not up there. They're not meaners. You know, they're not out here to try to hurt people. Okay? They've got a job to do to get the properties back into the hands of owner occupants if at all possible. And that's what they try to do. Now, sometimes what we're running into is properties that have been vacant too long. Okay? Maybe maybe they pulled the meter a year ago. Okay? Has everybody seen these properties where the meter's completely gone? And there's a red tag or a black tag on it? And it basically says that these things have been vacant so long that in order to turn the power back on, they're going to require a safety inspection. And it all depends on either which county you're in or what municipality you're in, on how you're going to proceed to do that. All right? Excuse me. In a nutshell, Charleston County, I believe, still requires you an electrician to pull a permit and go do a safety inspection. That can be pricey. I'm not talking thousands of dollars, but what I'm talking is $150, $200 probably. Okay? Then when they go back to Charleston County with that checklist, they're certifying that that property is in safe condition. And when they do that, they're basically taking some liability. So they're going to be fussy. Okay? If it doesn't fall within the county's guidelines, they will not let you turn the power on for inspections. So now, you're saying, I've got an inspection period, how am I going to complete the inspections without utilities? But the utility company says, you're not going to turn the power on until these repairs are done. And HUD's over here saying, no, you can't complete any repairs prior to close. It's a big racetrack. Everybody's chasing each other around. It's a catch-22. Bam. Okay? So again, this is one of the times when you want to pay attention to the property condition report. You want to do a preliminary look at the property and make sure. If you see that there are no smoke detectors in Dorchester County, it's a house in Dorchester County, and you got no smoke detectors in this house, this thing is not going to pass a safety inspection. Not going to happen. Okay? So if you're sitting in Dorchester County and you can't get it done, how can you get it? You can't. Because HUD won't allow you to even put up these cheap, sticky smoke detectors. They won't let you do it. They don't want anything done to their property. So you're gonna run into catch-22. So at that point, you either get an inspector to go in there and hook up a generator, if you can find somebody who'll do it, to turn on the power, but do not activate a pump, a well. Don't put water in that system unless you're authorized to do so, okay? If you can get an inspector to go in there and take a look at the property without putting a generator on there and say, yes, the electrical system looks good, you know, it's all depends on how you want to handle it and what advice you want to take from an inspector, okay? But as far as this catch-22, we haven't found a way around it. This is where we bump heads. HUD will not allow repairs. The county won't allow the power to be turned on without repairs. Bam, we got a problem. Okay? And at that point, what we've told people is get a hold of KM Minimier. Remember the asset management company? The cool part is real estate agents who put in offers and have them accepted, they deal with our client directly. Minimier's office contacts the selling agent, the buyer's agent, directly, and works more direct with them than we do. Okay? We're here for support. Janet and I, we'll answer questions for any agent, anybody who has questions, we're here to help. But when it comes to transactional situations, they need to talk to Minimier's office to see what can be done and find out what your options may be. Okay? I wish that we could help more than we do, but unfortunately our hands are tied as well. Okay? So that's another thing. Make sure that that catch-22 isn't going to hurt you.
You think you can get the house at a really good price if that's happening?
Sometimes. They don't normally renegotiate pricing. After HUD accepts an offer, 99 times out of 100 they will not renegotiate a price. The only time I've ever seen it is if there was damage during the contract period. That's about the only time I've ever seen it. Okay? So, again, yes, Steve?
In that case, though, they'd be well, not necessarily they wouldn't be losing out, but I mean, you wouldn't go through, you'd lose your escrow money, $500,000, whatever, and they're sitting on the property again, they're going to have to reintroduce it at a lesser price.
Possibly.
Can you go back and rebid on it?
Yes.
Knowing that it's...
Yep. You could go back and rebid. Again, they don't hold grudges. They don't have any emotional ties to the property. They don't look at somebody's name coming across their desk twice and go, oh no, they just bid less. No, they don't care about that. They don't. No. Yes, you can go back in and bid less if you wish.
$500,000 may be worth it, like you said, to fall like a sword. For $500,000, if you're not going to get things done.
No.
And then, go back and renegotiate for a lesser price. And
Right. But the whole idea is to avoid that situation whenever possible.
Right.
We hate to see that happen.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're making it up in the long run, that you're going to fix it up and it's going to be worth, $150,000 or whatever.
Yeah. If you're looking at it as an investor on that point, yeah, you can do that. But this catch-22 can be a tricky situation. Get a hold of Minimier's office, which is the asset management company. Have your agent get a hold of them and find out what your options are. There are times when they will say, okay, we understand. We will return the earnest money. Okay? If that's true. Now, if it's disclosed on the property condition report, it may be a little tougher to get back. Okay?
So, what are the things that would put you in the common things that would put you in that situation? So you said no smoke detectors.
No smoke detectors.
Missing
Damaged plumbing.
Damaged plumbing.
Yeah, damaged plumbing. Electrical boxes that have been stripped. Okay. Obvious damage to, say, the main wiring. Has anybody ever gone to one of these nice little stripped properties where people believe that 10 cents of copper is worth 2 hours worth of work to tear the wall apart? Right? They pull out a piece of wire and think, oh boy, I got 5 pounds of wire here. when they strip off the casing, it's like worth a dime. Right? They've just done $10,000 worth of damage to this house for 50 cents worth of copper. It is outrageous how many times we've seen this. Okay? So yeah, you're going to bump into this kind of stuff. So when you see the damage to the wiring, you see the damage to the plumbing, you know, things like that, no smoke detectors. The place is unsafe. Okay? You're not going to get a safety inspector to sign off on it. Dorchester County is a little bit more liberal. They have inspectors who will go out and take a look at the property. Dorchester County, you're going to need a smoke detector in each bedroom plus the living area. That's one of their big ones. Okay? Berkeley County, we've seen them go out there and say, well, as long as you have one smoke detector, we don't care. Okay? So,
Depends on which inspector you get.
probably. But I mean, it all depends on what county you're in. Somerville is really stringent. The town of Somerville. If you're going to go with CPW and all that stuff, SCE&G and all them, they need authorization from the town to activate the utilities. So sometimes, after a while, you get to know these counties and towns and municipalities and know who's stringent and who isn't. So that's another thing that you can look at. If you're on HUD Home Store and you know darn well you don't want to be in certain neighborhoods, don't look at properties in that neighborhood. You can look in other areas. Okay?
In that situation, you could still, if you wanted to, still close on it and
Yes, sir.
fix it up and then...
Absolutely, absolutely. And outside of the investor realm, okay, when we have people who are buying homes, a lot of times this inspection is going to be a moot point, because if they're doing a 203K loan, they're going to do repairs anyway. Okay? If they put the money aside to do the repairs, they don't care. So a lot of times they'll close on a 203K loan.
Can't you get up to 30,000 on a 203K?
You can do as much as you want.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am. There's two different types of 203Ks loan, 203K loans. One's a streamlined and one is a full. Okay? I think the streamlined is up to what, 30,000? 35 now. Okay? See, all I gotta do is look at this encyclopedia. Alright? So it's up to $35,000. You can do repairs, upgrades, anything you want. Okay? That's a streamline. That doesn't take anywhere near the engineering and the reports and all that stuff for the contractors. Okay? However, if you're going to do a full, which is over $35,000 worth, it takes reports, it takes a HUD certified inspector to go out there and to write up a report on the property, okay, and do that kind of thing. So the difference between a 203K streamline and a 203K full is pretty drastic. Okay? It can cost your buyers some pretty substantial money, but if the deal's good enough and they end up with a ton of equity at the end of the deal, and they like it, okay? And again, those FHA loans are for owner occupants. It really doesn't fall into the investor realm so much as how we look at it. Okay? So, closing times, they're fairly quick too. All right? Normally a regular cash transaction, 30 days or less. If you can close in less than 30 days and your attorney like Mark Weeks, that guy's a wizard. He could close it 14 days, no problem whatsoever, as long as HUD allows him to do it. Okay? He's happy to do that stuff. The only thing the attorney has to have is all the documents and everything to HUD 5 days prior to closing for approval. Okay? That's the requirement. So if you want to expect to close in 10 days or something, you really got to be on the ball. All right? So cash closing 30 days or less. Financed up to 45 days. So if you're going to do a transaction with hard money loan, I believe you can take up to 45 days to close. These contracts are not assignable, folks. I wish they were, but they're not. HUD won't allow and/or assigns. None of that. If you're putting in the bid as an LLC or an individual, you need to close as the LLC or that individual. All right? If you're using an LLC, make sure that you have your LLC formation documents together. They're going to want to at least see page 1 or 2 of your operating agreement that shows that you, as an individual, can sign for your LLC. Again, this is something that you want to do with your real estate agent. Make sure that they have all this paperwork before you place the offer, because it's pretty time sensitive. So if it takes you 2 days to get a document to them, HUD will cancel the offer if they don't get everything done within 2 days. And they'll tell you so. It's no problem. They're in the business of nationwide eliminating their properties off their books. So they streamline everything. Okay? Unfortunately, we may have the best of intentions, but it doesn't fall within their guidelines. If you've gone more than 2 days or 3 days to get documents into them, they have all the rights in the world to go ahead and cancel that offer, return your earnest money, because you haven't signed the documents yet. So they don't technically own the earnest money yet. Okay? So if they do that, you can go ahead and rebid if you wish. Just have your documents together, have everything ready for your agent. Okay? Extension fees. If by some chance you've got a hard money lender who's dragging his feet, or maybe he gave you a pre-approval letter and then he went to the Grand Caymans, you're standing here saying, hey, I've got to close this thing and you're on vacation. What am I going to do? The guy says, well, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Well, that's a week later than I need to close. If you have to extend, provide a reason to HUD. Request an extension. They'll give you up to 15 days for the first time. Okay? If it's a legitimate reason, they'll waive an extension fee if you ask them to. They don't have to, but many, many times they will. Okay? And these extension fees are set by the price range of the property. So lower price range, I think they charge $15 a day. Times 15 days is what? Okay? So it could be significant. If you're buying a $150,000 house, they can charge $35 a day at $15 days, because you pay for a 15-day period at once. Okay? The great part is this extension fee, if you pay for 15 days worth of extension and you close in 3, they'll credit that money back to you that you didn't use. They're great. They really are. They're very fair. They don't play games, but they're very fair. Okay? They're not in the business of taking people's money. Okay? So, as we go through this, the things that we really need to remember on HUD properties is there are no repairs or changes to the property prior to closing. Can't do it. We, as the neighborhood listing brokers, are required to go out there and take a full set of pictures of every property every week. That means we go inside, we take a picture of every room, we take a picture of all 4 sides, the outside, the lawn, everything. Every week, every property. Okay? That can be, and we have to submit these to HUD. And if they're looking at it and they say, 2 weeks ago this thing did not have smoke detectors in it. Why are the smoke detectors in here? I don't know. They don't accept that answer from us. We have to chase somebody down and say, okay, who put these in? And we have to make an explanation. Okay? So we ask, beg, please do not make any repairs or changes to the property. Even if it's something as simple as sticking up a smoke detector. Please don't do it. It causes us major grief. If we could get away with letting people do this and HUD was okay with it, it would probably be one of the easiest things there is to do. But they hold us to a high standard. They don't accept any excuses. And unfortunately, if we're going to catch grief, we have to pass some on. Okay? So we have to talk to real estate agents fairly often and say what happened here. And then we have to try to figure out how to explain this without blowing the deal up. Okay? So, that's one of the most important things. All visits, again, must have a real estate agent that's HUD approved. Okay? If your brokerage has an NAID number, all you have to do is register on the website. If your agency does not have an NAID number, it can take a good while, 4 to 6 weeks, to process the paperwork from your agency through HUD to get that NAID number assigned. Okay? NAID stands for Name and Address Identification Number. That's all. Pretty simple. NAID. So the real estate office needs to have the NAID, and the agent needs to register under that NAID number, using that NAID number when they register on HUD Home Store. Okay? If you're working with a real estate agent out in the area and you're interested in a HUD property, make sure that you ask them, are you qualified, is your, not so much are you qualified, but is your brokerage qualified to do the HUD properties? Because you may draw up a South Carolina contract and waste a whole lot of your own time. Because we don't use South Carolina contracts. HUD is a very easy one-page offer form, the contract. It's called a HUD 9548, okay? If anybody wants to know about that. They ask you for a 9548, all that is a one-page HUD contract, okay? Now there's a whole bunch of little addendums that go with it, or addenda, if you want to say. There's several different disclosures and things like that go with it, okay? Read through each one. I know it's a whole lot more fun sitting at a table just saying, sign here, initial here, initial here. Okay, you're done. Please read all these documents and what they mean to you. And if for some reason you don't understand what it means to you, reach out and make sure. Because there are consequences for some of the things, such as your inspection periods for uninsured properties. These things are all spelled out in the documents. So while you're going through these documents, make sure that you understand. And if you don't understand or you have a question, talk to your agent. If your agent doesn't know, is not sure, call us. Okay? Either that or you can talk to KM Minnemeyer's office. But we'll be happy to talk to you about it as well. Okay? No keys at closing. This is an issue that, some people just can't quite get used to. It's like, I sit at a closing table, I take the keys to the property. This house is mine, why don't I get the keys? Well, when HUD gets a property back, and they initially go back out there and change the doorknobs, they've only got 4 different key cuts. Okay? You know how a key is cut to a certain... They only have 4 different ones they use. So if they were to give Sharon a set of keys after she closes, you now have a set of keys to almost 25% of the HUD inventory in the entire country. Oops, they don't want to do that. So what they do is they say, your buyer's agent can take possession of the keys after closing, go out and unlock the door for the buyer, and the buyer's contractor or they themselves can change the locks at that point. Then the keys have to be sent back to the listing broker, us. Okay? So that's some of the more important things to really keep in mind. Okay? Just have an extra set of doorknobs. I mean, they're pretty cheap. They really are. Just make sure that your agent goes with you to open the door after closing, One cool gift, you can make a suggestion, is, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, how about a set of doorknobs for a closing gift? Anyways, but we do things like that, which is just nice. Okay? So no keys at closing. Buyer must rekey after closing at buyer's expense. Okay? So at this point, I didn't put a question slide up here, but if anybody has any questions, we're available. Jen and I will be here for a little bit. Again, we're up on Ashley Phosphate Road. If you're swinging by and you have a question, come on in, stop in, see us. If your agent has a question, by all means, have them reach out to us. Part of our duties as HUD listing brokers is to go out and educate both buyers and real estate agents. Okay, we've done many training sessions at real estate offices. Could be Carolina One in Somerville. We've done agent owned over in Goose Creek. We've done some over in Keller Williams over in Mount Pleasant. I'll travel. Janet and I will travel to put on a presentation on the buyer's side as well. Okay, this was specifically designed really to give an investor an idea of what to look for. But we also do a presentation that will train agents on what to do and what to expect on a HUD transaction from soup to nuts. Okay? We dive into transactions, we dive into financing, things like that. But that's not important for us here today as investors, okay? Because there's a lot of different things that don't apply to us. But this will give you a pretty good idea of looking at HUD properties on HUDhomestore.com. Okay? And once you start doing that, you're going to see a pattern. You're going to see how the property condition report out there can give you basic information. And pretty soon you'll get to look at them and say, okay, I think I can live with that. Or, no, I can't live with that. Let's find something else. Okay? The only other thing I want to say is HUD Home Store, if it's on there, it's available. That is so different than a lot of agents who have things in MLS. They might have a property under contract and haven't yet changed the MLS status to either contingent or pending or what have you. Whereas if it's out there on HUDhomestore.com, it's available. So, other than that, I mean, that's a, yes sir?
How are these properties valued and priced? I mean, who values them? How are they valued? Are they below market usually? I don't know.
Well, what we've typically seen is they're usually listed right around appraised value at the time of listing. How they value them is they'll send out an appraiser to do a full-blown appraisal, and then they'll have a neighborhood listing broker like us do a BPO. BPO stands for broker price opinion. Okay? It's an informal appraisal, it's an opinion of value that a real estate agent looks at the market, the surrounding comps. It does a lot of what an appraisal does, but not nearly as in-depth and not nearly as regulated. Okay? We put more of our intuition into it, whereas an appraiser is nothing but numbers, period. Numbers, numbers, numbers. We look at the values based on neighborhood, comps, the amount of repairs that are going to be needed. We also, Jen and I, try to take into account investors, because not everything's going to go to a homeowner. Okay? We try to take into account a return on investment. All right? If there's going to be $40,000 worth of repairs, an investor is going to expect a return on their money, a return on their investment. And we try to take that into account. Okay? So if we run into a property that needs a good deal of work, we try to price it accordingly, because we know that a homeowner is probably not going to buy it. If they do, it'll be a rehab loan. Okay? But if an investor does, they're going to expect a return on investment. And we don't always win. All right? Many, many times we'll see properties come back, we've given it a certain value, the appraisers come in a lot higher. They'll list it at the higher value. So typically you'll see price reductions after a period of time.
Oh, they changed the price on the website?
Yes,
Okay.
they change the price on the website. Whatever they've got it on there at that time, that's what it's offered at. Okay? And again, you can place offers anywhere you want to. You wanna go and put in $50,000 offer on a $100,000 property, by all means, go ahead and do so. Okay? All they can do is say no.
So could you put your $50,000 offer on that today,
Mhm.
and then like it's still on the market a month later, put the same offer in again?
Yes, sir. And they may consider it 60, 90, 120 days later. Just watch the pricing. It may be coming down. They can accept within a certain threshold, and I don't have that number. They never give us the numbers. But they have a certain threshold that they can accept on behalf of HUD. Sometimes if they get close, they'll take it to HUD and say, you know, all our offers are coming in here, we've got an offer here, can you accept? And at that time, they may be able to take it, okay? So, yeah, you can do whatever you wish. You know, there are people out there who put offers in on HUD properties all day long. Anybody heard of Larry Goins?
Yes.
Okay? Larry Goins' office has written a book on how to buy a HUD property. Okay? He's got a system where he just places offers constantly. He's got people just throwing offers in, bam, 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 bam. And once they get accepted, he's usually in such a good position, he buys them. Okay? But it has to fall within his guidelines and his parameters and his program. Okay? So there are ways to do it. Yeah, Steve?
Can you go over the buying periods again?
Certainly.
The 10-day.
Okay.
occupant?
Yep. If, let's see. Okay, here we go. So, when HUD puts the property on as a listing, okay, the first 10 days of that listing, if it's insurable or insurable with escrow, okay, there's a 15-day owner-occupant period. The first 10 days, they're going to allow all the offers to come in, but they won't review them. Day 11, see, I don't usually go through this with investors because it really doesn't apply. But just so you understand, just so you know, first 10 days, they'll let offers come in. Day 11, they'll open them all up as though they were received simultaneously. So if you put one in on day 1 or day 10, doesn't make a bit of difference. You don't have any advantage. Okay? Day 11, they'll open them up and it's strictly numbers to them. Strictly. If they have an offer that's within their acceptable tolerance, they will accept an offer from an owner-occupant and take the property off the market. If they don't have one that they can accept, they will open the offers on a daily basis as they come in. So, day 12, they'll let all the offers come in on the same day. And they'll do the same thing the next day. They'll open everything from yesterday, today. Okay? So they won't take one in and accept. They'll wait for the whole day and then open them the next day. Once they get through day 15, and they don't have any owner-occupant offers that they can accept, they'll turn around and open it up to all parties. All bidders is what it's called. Okay? That includes in non-owner occupants, owner occupants, government entities, non-profits, everybody. So day 16, they'll open that up. And then at that point, they will start opening offers on a daily basis. Just like they did the first, the last 5 days. They'll open them up. All the ones that came in yesterday, they'll open it up today. Over the weekend, you'll have to wait till Monday. So if you're going to put in an offer on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you won't get an answer till Monday. Okay? The uninsurable properties, when they initially start off with these, they put them into what they call a lottery period. Now you won't see these things listed during the lottery period. Okay? And I try not to confuse too many people with it, but what they do is they'll take that and they'll make it available to some of their programs. Has anybody heard of the Good Neighbor Next Door program? Okay. They make properties available to police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and teachers at 50%, half price. Okay? Super good deal for these people, but they need to be properties that are within the area that they serve. Okay? It's a very good program for somebody to get in inexpensively. They want to get service people like police officers and firefighters into the neighborhoods. Again, this is building on bringing values back up in the neighborhoods, getting owner occupants in. And they offer these special programs. There are very, very, very few Good Neighbor Next Door programs in the entire state of South Carolina. Very rarely do we see them. We've been doing this, what, 12 years? And we've seen none here in this area? One or two, yes?
They're very limited.
Oh, extremely limited, yeah. Yes, sir?
In North Carolina, you know about, you guys work here, so you're probably not going to know about North Carolina, so sorry to ask.
No, that's fine. Actually, that's a darn good question. You know how you find out? You go on HUDhomestore.com, okay? You clicked on the state, yep. See, hey, my job here is done. I'm going to drop the mic, see. Now, but yeah, you click on the state, and then on the very bottom, you're going to see a little thing that says, Good Neighbor Next Door. It's blue writing, okay? Click on that, and it'll give you a little key. There's a dark blue or a light blue state. And in the dark blue does not have any of these properties in it. A light blue state has Good Neighbor Next Door properties.
Depending on the state, it may be under a different name, because I know some states called it like the HERO program or something like that.
Okay, that's based on whichever county or state or municipality it is. Right. Yeah, Homes for Our Heroes? Yes.
And it has like police officers and it includes military too, but some
Yes.
states call it HERO, some people say.
Right. Good Neighbor Next Door is a federal HUD program.
Oh, it's actually.
Yep, it's actually a program that's done by HUD itself. So yes, it's got the same idea, but this program is set up with the HUD department, the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
But that's specifically to live in, not to invest in.
That's correct. They have to live in it. They have to live in it for at least 2 years, I believe, or 3 years. And it's pretty much it's a forgivable loan. Okay? To make it a long story short, just so you know, they write up two different sides of the purchase. Okay? It's two different loans, basically. When they close, they actually make payments on the first half of the loan, and the second half just kind of sits here. You don't have to make payments. It doesn't accrue interest, nothing. It just sits here. But if that individual was to sell the property within the first 3 years, that loan's payable. That's part of the payoff. Okay? But after 3 years, they crumple it up, throw it away. And that person just pays on that half for the rest. Okay? So that's how they develop it. Okay? It's a great program. It's made for those people. So if there's anybody out there who knows one of these individuals who's looking for that, you know where to find these properties down. You can go on HUD Home Store, click on the state, hit the blue lettering that says homes, blank. Huh? Good Neighbor Next Door. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Every once in a while, that little thought will jump out of your head and run around the table. So.
But that would eliminate a lot of investors from putting somebody in a house
That's true.
and then expecting them to move shortly.
Yeah. That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. And that was happening in Mount Pleasant, not necessarily to that store, but
Right.
that was happening in Mount Pleasant about 4 or 5 years ago. And they smoked them. Those people from Georgetown got wolf that ass.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sorry to hear that.
You know.
So after they make those properties available to those programs and they don't sell within the first 7 days, then, you remember we had the 15-day owner-occupant period? Well, these properties here will go with a very short 5-day period before they open up to investors. Okay? So once they put them on the listing, it's a 5-day period. Once they don't do that, if they don't get any offers in the 5-day period, bam, they'll open it up to everybody. So it's an abbreviated period. But yeah, insurable and insurable with escrow are the long periods. The uninsurable is the short. Okay? All right, I'm not going to bore you anymore with HUD government talk. All right? Tommy just wanted me to mention that there's not a lot of properties anymore available through HUD. We've seen a major decrease. We're actually seeing a couple more come through, but not anything like what we did. Was everybody around here in 2007, 2008 when the bottom fell out? And all of a sudden, every third listing in the MLS was either a bank-owned or a HUD. That's pretty much what it was, okay? Or a short sale. Oh my God, it was flooded with short sales, right? Well, this is just my opinion, but I think that HUD and the government are trying to avoid this again. All right? A lot of lenders have not learned their lesson. There are liar loans out, no doc loans out there. They're coming back, all right? What we believe happened in 2008, 2009 in the crash was there were so many bad loans out there, okay? They were bundling up the loans and selling them to a secondary source as though they were good. And this happened so much that a lot of these lenders got hit with toxic assets in their portfolios, okay? So nowadays, you're not going to see a whole lot of HUDs. You're not going to see the huge volume like there was. Because what's happened is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD, now instead of taking the properties back, they own the loans, okay? Instead of keeping those loans and working them through foreclosure, they're selling pools of what they call non-performing loans. These are non-performing loans. These are loans that are toxic, that have been 90 to 120 days down, probably have been served with notice of default. Okay? As investors, are you aware that you can buy these? Okay? Depends on what source you're looking at. But you can buy notes and mortgages, deeds of trust, land contracts. These things are called notes. Okay? Janet and I also invest in notes and mortgages, and we also broker. So, just to expand your mind just a little bit, okay, if you run across these things, there's opportunity. Because you can buy these things at a discount and change how much interest you're making. Okay? Just to give you a very brief idea, you've got a $100,000 loan that you can buy. If you pay $100,000 for that loan and it's paying 6%, what's your return? 6%. All right? What if you could buy that loan for $85,000? Is it still 6%? No. You've just leveraged your money to return maybe 9. Okay? So if you can get a deeper discount out of it, you can increase your yield. So that's just an idea, all right? That's a basic idea of notes and mortgages. And the only reason I really bring that up is because it ties in with HUD, foreclosures, Fannie and Freddie out there, okay? If you watch the news, you're going to see out there where they announce Fannie Mae just sold $6.3 billion worth of loans. What does that mean? That means a hedge fund like Black Knight or some of these other huge hedge funds just bought those loans away from the lenders like Fannie and Freddie, and you're not going to see them come through the foreclosure pipeline like you used to. Okay? So that's something else that we're going to have to get used to in this atmosphere, in this market. There's not going to be a huge flood of REOs, bank-owned properties, foreclosures, like there was. Some people are saying that it's coming. I believe that there's going to be some, but it's not going to be anything like what we saw before. So, in your business, as an investor, you're probably going to have to adapt, watch the market, and figure out how you can make it work for you. Okay? I I think that's all I've got tonight. I'll turn it back over to Santa.
Well,
Let him take the...
the other day,
Thank you.
you did good. The other day, he and I were riding around, and we were discussing business, okay? We bounce stuff off of each other, off of you bounce it off of us, that kind of stuff. And we were thinking about, you know, in our business, you gotta be able to change with the tide. What's working today, excellent, might don't be working tomorrow. And that's plain evident of what he said. It's also said, look at the news and see what the market's doing. Since we had a Trump market, that nobody knows what it's going to do. But I did notice, and it kept bouncing in my head when he just said what he did a while ago about them not having these big load of foreclosures like we went through and saw what happened. I see that the market right now is dropping the interest rate. They're doing that, so just like he said, instead of the discount, they're picking it up and they eliminating a lot of those problems. And we wonder why in the world, when everything's as good as it is, why are they dropping the interest rates to get more people to buy? They don't have enough inventory. You know, so they keep from having to sell those notes at a premium, discounted premium. So it's a lot of different things, but be in your mind that whenever you buy something in investor world, it's usually on the downside or at the bottom, and you're waiting for it to come back. So if you're buying on the downside and we're really running smooth and there's very little downside anymore because it's coming back up level, all right? Everybody stop me if you don't believe what I'm saying. So if that's the case, then why are you, where are we going to go next? What else are we going to do? Because a lot of people were getting a lot of flip properties, and they ride on it. I mean, we'll keep 7 going all the time. You have to look at indicators for a lot of people that you got mentors that you're working with to see what they think the market is going. Do they know exactly? No, none of us know that. But we work off of what we hear, and we hear it enough, most probably going to be true. And that prime example was he and I was riding. He dropped me off at a friend of mine's business, and the first thing that friend of mine told me, he's in real estate to a degree also, and he said, Santa, back off, because we're going to have a drop. Well, he's an auction business, and he auctions equipment. So he's listening at it from that side as to whether the home builders are going to need to be land clearing or whatever they're going to be. He looked at one, and he's got one that his indicator runs 2 lines, and when it crosses, something's going to happen. Might not be today, but it's going to be down the road. Or it may not, because thank God that we got somebody that understands economics in Washington, D.C. What I'm saying, I think. But then Will's got something. I listen to people as to what they're saying and what they think the market's going to do. Because if you buy, and a lot of people got hurt bad. I mean, they were swamped. But what are you going to do with it? What's the worst case scenario if you buy a piece of property, you miss your numbers?
Ride it out and rent it.
Ride it out. Same thing they do in the stock market. They ride it out. You hear them talking about it. Can you afford to ride it out? As a creative thinker, I think about a piece of property, and I do this at most every property we go in. Whenever we leave, the last word I will ask you is if this was your property and you did what you thought was the best thing to do, and you did it and you missed your numbers because of something you didn't see. Now you're going to be stuck with a piece of property that you got more in than you can get out. Can't get a loan. What's one of the best ways in the world to put money in your pocket? Somebody give me an answer. What? Owner financing. There's people out there that can't go get a loan. They got the money, but they don't have the credit. They got the credit, they don't have the money. You can get money down, you can help that person be able to own something, and in return, they helping you. You can put a balloon on that, and what does people understand what a balloon is? You got several years that they can pay, and say 5 years later they got to pay it all off, get a new loan. That's one way. Another way is just carrying the note right on. I like to carry the note right on, because that means whenever I cash one out, that means I'm going to put money in another one. My wife says I need to bring more money home than I do. If I said, well, baby, the church gets by with 10%. She said, this ain't the church. You're going to need a little bit more money than that. So it's just, how are you going to get rid of, how are you going to move a property that you got more into and you can get out? Or why is it that it's not selling? There's something happened. We went into one property over in Somerville. There was a real genius that fixed that one. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. And that's why we get to do these caravans, is to where we can show you from the contractor side of looking at it, the buying side of it, what you can do with it, why would you do it a certain way. But this person, I think they've been watching too much reality shows on TV sometimes. Because I know that they had to go to went to Habitat or wherever in a $200,000 house and put $500 house fixtures. You selling a $200,000 house, you got to have a $250,000 house. It's up to that limit now. Is looking at a $250,000 house, you got to treat it like a $250,000 house. You just can't go slap some mud and stuff on the edge of the wall and say, well, I covered up that hole. I'll go down there and buy, well, a lot of people slam a doorknob into a sheetrock wall. Oh, we'll put a patch over that. That ain't the way you do it. I mean, the price of the house is going to determine what you get. And you, by owner financing it, people can pay more, will pay more, but they expect to. If they were to get a loan, their interest rate is going to be so high that their payments and the price of that house they're paying for it is going to be way on more than what you would have bought it at if you had a good credit. So you're helping them either way. I mean, you're helping them get in it. The banks are going to charge you X number of dollars because of so and so. And when you go to the bank to get a loan, which bank you going to? Most people go to the same bank that they put the money in. Well, that ain't the only bank in town. There's a group of them just like that. But then we got other kind of banks. So whenever you take somebody as a realtor and you take them there to get a loan, and they told, well, I'm sorry, I can't buy the property because I couldn't get a loan. Well, what bank did you go to? Well, I went to so-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, well, yeah, well, let's try this one. You didn't try but one? Come on, how bad you want the house? Yeah. So it's savings and loans. They got a different program. You know, you got a credit union. They got a different program. So it's, don't just, whenever somebody's going to get a loan, just don't let them take it. Stop a wholesale of the deal by saying, well, I went to my bank told me no, I couldn't get the money. Well, somebody else might have went to that same bank and got it. You know? All right, people, I appreciate y'all's time, and we have to keep this room cleaned up and have it all ready for them, and we have to be out by 9 o'clock, but I would love